What is up, everybody? It's your boy Phil Porto, photographer, videographer, and educator. And I want to thank you all so much because over the last 2 months, the amount of subscriptions and views have been a total blessing. Since I lost monetization with all the health issues I had, we're getting so much closer. We would have already been there, but YouTube kind of changed some of its parameters of what it takes. So we are getting close. So thank you guys so much. I have started living in a travel trailer now, and I will be a photographer on the go. So as you see, my setup is a little bit different, but I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this next journey. But for today's video, Fuji prime lenses have always been good. At least that's my opinion. But like anything, with time, improvements end up having to be made because there's new technology, there's new information that you're able to create with, there's new opportunities, there's new competitors, and you have to keep up with them. But there's always been one Fuji lens, the OG Fuji lens for me, that continues to stand the test of time. And we're going to talk about that right after this intro. So, like I said in the intro, some things have to be updated and revamped. Some Fuji lenses, though they were good, did not stand the test of time. The first for me was that 35mm. Though I loved it and it was super good when it came to taking photos and taking portraits, that little turn dial was noisy as can be. And there were just certain things that didn't really, stand the test of time with that lens. And they made the improvement to that 33, and I love the 33. The 33 now is one of my favorite lenses. So that was a well done and much needed improvement when it came to that focal length. Same with the 23mm. It was a good lens, but it wasn't good enough for me to keep on that first version. However, this new version, so much better, so much sharper. It doesn't get soft like the old 23 did, or at least for me, I felt like every version of the 23 that I used, it always had a little bit of softness that would come out after a few weeks, a few months of having that lens. So the new one has been spot on, has been a workhorse for me, especially when I'm only using one lens. So that lens has been great. The 56, that old 56 was one of my favorite lenses. Such a great lens. However, it was super slow, and I could not rely on it for certain parts, especially if I'm shooting an event or a wedding day and things were moving fast. That lens was not promising when it came to its focal speed. However, the new one, which I'll be doing a video on, the new one has been amazing. It has everything you loved about the old one, but there's new things in it, and it's also way faster than the old one was, so it's a much more reliable lens. I can go on and on about the lenses that Fuji has revamped and made better. However, there is one lens that has stood the test of time for me, and it's one that I continue to use every single wedding, every single commercial shoot, every single event, and that is the 90mm f2. This lens, this bad boy right here, has stood the test of time for me. This lens is such a reliable, beautiful lens. So let's talk about 3 reasons that this lens has stood the test of time. So one reason that this lens continues to stand the test of time for me is that it continues to be, for me, the bokeh, whatever you want to call it, bokeh king when it comes to the Fuji X mount lenses, at least in my opinion. Okay, because this lens continues to give me that sharpness that I love, but also that creamy background. It separates the subject and the background beautifully. Even with the improvements of the other lenses that have come out that I've added to my arsenal, when it comes to needing bokeh and beautiful bokeh at that, this is my go-to lens. And yes, I have tried their new 50mm. And I will say one thing, it is a beautiful lens. I've used it many times. I actually did a shoot with my guy John Branch, and we both really enjoyed it. However, there's some things about the lens that I can't really rock with. The first is that that thing is a freaking tank. Like, I love the lens, but goodness gracious, the size on that thing is just way too much. It's 1.86 pounds, okay? And though the 90mm is about 1.1 pounds, you wouldn't think those numbers themselves would make a difference, but using that lens nonstop throughout a day, yes, that does make a difference. And the way that it's shaped, it's just very awkwardly shaped in its size for the size of these Fuji X camera bodies. It just doesn't really fit for me. It didn't feel right when it was on my lens for more than 15 minutes at a time. I just couldn't rock with it. So that's the reason I didn't go for it. And then when you look at the price point, it's a $1,500 lens as opposed to this guy that comes in at $949. So for me, it was just a better fit to continue rocking with the 90mm. So I'm going to take a pause real quick to ask you guys to subscribe to my other YouTube channel. Myself, my brother, and Hector, we've been working really hard, and as of this summer, we actually added RJ Vergara of Entourage and Power to our squad. He is now part of the Knicks Morning Brew, and we're able to create content alongside him for the Knicks community, the Yankees community, the Jets community, Rangers community, and adding more and more sports teams as the year goes. So check it out. Link is right there. So the second reason that this lens has stood the test of time for me is that for me, especially during weddings, ceremonies, or events or anything like that, I love getting the close-up emotions without having to be that guy with a 23 to 35mm right in everybody's face. It just does not work. Yes, there's times you want to get a wide angle from up close at a wedding ceremony, but when you are pretty much sitting on the groom's lap or the bride's lap just to get photos throughout the whole ceremony, that does not work. So especially when there's amazing times like the emotional reaction of a groom, always be rocking with this one to capture that groom's reaction without being kind of a disturbance. So this lens allows me to get the images that show the feelings and the vibe of the day without being a disruption. And that is super important to me. Yes, there are zooms. The 50 to 140 is a really good lens. However, if I'm not shooting something like a super traditional church, which I'll rent the lens for that, the 50 to 140 just doesn't work for me. It's not something that I'll use in many instances, so it's not one that I own. But it is a very good lens for situations like that. But this one is the perfect focal length for me when it comes to being far enough from a subject, yet getting the reactions that I want. When you get too close, you disrupt the reactions. So having a lens like this is great. It's very similar to the Canon 135 that I used to rock with back in the day when I was a Canon shooter. So this is another reason that I absolutely love this lens. Then there's my third and final reason why this lens has stood the test of time, and that is that the images are still top notch. Though I've upgraded all my other lenses, this lens's photo quality is still up to par with those. And that is huge for me, because one thing I would never want is for a couple or a client to go through their gallery and love it and then see that there's kind of a fall off with a certain amount of images because that lens was not up to par. And that does not happen. I use the 33 and 18 for most of my weddings and most of my events, and then when it's paired with this 90mm, the quality does not fall off. It looks like a seamless collection, and that is what a photographer should strive for. Not that these images are top-notch and then these are subpar. It should be top-notch through and through, from the first image to the last. And that's why this lens is such a great lens for me. Even though it's been a while and it has not been upgraded, it is still up to par. So in conclusion, the 90mm is a lens that I truly suggest, if you have not used it, that you try it. I really believe that you would be surprised with the quality of this lens. If Fuji was to upgrade it, of course, I would try it, see what I think, but in my opinion, as of right now, I don't think it needs the upgrade. I don't think that if they came out with the upgrade, I would need to spend the money on it, because as of right now, this guy is continuing to fight side by side with all the other lenses that I have. So I totally recommend the 90mm, and if you guys agree or disagree, I would love to hear it in the comments. Please let me know your thoughts. If there's another lens that you think is as good or better at this focal length, let me know. I would love to try it out. If someone has a hookup with that lens, I'd love to do a side-by-side image comparison and kind of go from there. But for now, I'm going to keep rocking with the 90mm, and until next time, God bless.